Advanced Energy Anatomy, Session 6, Creativity Through the Chakras, with Caroline Myss.
The energy of creativity is by far among the most misunderstood currents of life that run through the human experience. For one thing, we define creativity and only apply it to art, to painting, to music. And once we move out of the fine arts, we find it difficult to push the concept of creativity into mathematics, or into being an accountant, or into everyday life. The number of people that I have seen or been with who've said, "I'm not very creative." You cannot imagine how many people make that declaration about themselves. They don't realize, if they stood back and looked at their life, that everything you do is an aspect of creativity. It's a manifestation of your creativity. The fact is, you can't stop being creative. Why? Because creativity is a word we give to the life force. It's a word we give to part of the personality of the life force. The life force has many personalities. Part of it's very sensual. Part of it's very strategic. Life force has personalities. And part of the personality of the life force is creativity. Creativity is an essential essence of life. You are born to create. You can't stop it. The experience of human life is the experience of thought flowing into form, of your spirit flowing into matter, of you managing your spirit in matter, and then retrieving your spirit from matter, and in that act of retrieval, you absorb the wisdom and the learning that emerges out of the experiences that you've co-created in your life. When I've done readings on people, in terms of evaluating what causes the breakdown of the body, there are, of course, the causes that are so obvious in the physical world. There's environmental causes, and there's disease. There's your DNA. There's your biology. There are all numbers of physical causes. But you can become extremely ill from creative blockage. That energetically is an illness. Why? Because your body has a passion to create. It can't stop it. It's the role of the second chakra. When you have a blockage in creativity, your third and your second chakra develop such a block that you can implode. And it does manifest in illnesses, one of which is the inability to lose weight. Because weight gain is blocked creativity. Let me explain it a little more, in that you are holding in energies that are longing to be born. And I think that if we dealt with creativity in the process of creation and understood that it is as essential to the maintenance of a healthy life as is breath itself, then from day one we would educate our children with an essential emphasis on the fact that you need to find a route of creative expression in your life, which is not necessarily art. Let us define creativity as the management of the life force. How you do it is going to come through you as individuals. And some of the most creative people I know, they manifest their creativity through their gardening, or through their attitudes, or through the personality they have, or the manner in which they create exquisite conversation. There is no end to this definition except in the way that you end the definition. And if you tell yourself, "Well, I'm not creative," as I have seen so many people do, you put yourself in an energetic torture chamber. And I am telling you that you suffer, and you don't even realize that the depressions you suffer are in fact creative repression, not just depression. You have to turn the light on yourself and ask yourself questions that we've never been taught to ask ourselves. What am I doing with my creative energy? I have a contract. I have an obligation to manage my spirit in a creative way as it flows into matter. This is the obligation of life. This is the journey of life. Now, I'm going to describe a model of your energy system, and I'm going to move you in and out of each of your chakras, each of your energy centers, each of your data banks, all of which are words I use to describe the chakra fields. This is a model you can use through which to evaluate why are you blocking your energy and how can you unleash that block. And this is where we'll pull in the 4 archetypes. You work with these as a team, this model, those 4 voices, and you can engage the flow of your creativity and expression as if you were moving boulders out of the river of your psyche, because that is what you're doing. As a visual then, I want you to imagine that there are 8 energy fields. The 8th chakra is an impersonal one. This is the energy center between you personally and who you are in this lifetime and your impersonal self. One way that I can describe this is to say that as the first step of incarnating into the self, the spirit needs characteristics. The spirit needs aspects, a personality, it needs potential. All of that is held in your 8th chakra. This is the potential creative reservoir of your spirit. Then your spirit allows that information, that guidance, that life force to begin to flow through your 7 personal chakras. Now, when I was describing your archetypes reside in your 8th chakra. They are your impersonal voices that influence you personally. Then we move into the 7th chakra, down through the 6th, the 5th, the 4th, and then into the physical manifestation of the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st. I'm going to walk you in to each one of these intimately, and as I do, I want you to hold in your mind something you want to create, something that you've been perhaps struggling with, something you feel you're stifled with financially, or you are afraid to move forward with in your life. I want you to use this model, and not just once, refer to it again and again as you work with the ever-present flow of creative energy in your life. Now I'm first going to give you an overall image so you have a full spectrum from beginning to closure. You're going to imagine that a brick of energy, gold energy, a brick of inspiration is dropped into your psyche, and that brick is life force. And it carries a thought form, a potential, a direction that you need to respond to, that you need to bring into incarnation. The first place that brick moves into your psyche is in the 7th chakra. Now, the way you feel this is that you actually will feel an entry of what I call a download. You'll feel a rush down your spine. It will activate your full chakra system. That inspiration puts your whole being on alert that you've become impregnated with potential. When you feel this energy, and hopefully now you're going to become more and more conscious of it, your immediate response should be to just still yourself and get a feel for it, because it'll have a feeling to it. Not only will it physiologically present itself like this rush down your spine, your thought process in that instant is going to be elevated. It'll be transcendent of your personal history. It'll be transcendent of that moment in your life. It will fill you with an extraordinary feeling of potential. In that moment, any feelings you have about depression, sadness, any feelings you have that your life is going nowhere, for that instant will be eclipsed when you have a download of potential. Now, from a different perspective, I want you to imagine that you're sitting opposite your angel or your guide, and that your guide says to you at this point, will you accept this potential, or do you want us to take it somewhere else? Because this is for you. Now, do you want to accept it? Can you manage it? Even if you can't feel this, what I am telling you, this process between you and your guide taking place, even if you can't feel it in this moment, at least imagine that it's happening. And now that potential descends, and it is a process of descending into physical form. I choose the word descent deliberately because that word implies a process through which energy gathers density, gradually and gradually and gradually. Exactly that flow from high voltage energy into very dense earth. I want you to be able to develop a rapport with how creation feels as it's moving through your cell tissue, as it's moving through your mind, as it moves through your heart. You need this rapport because you are the one who manages what your spirit's doing and where your spirit is. Let's step outside of this just for a moment, because your seventh chakra is your grace bank account. It's your internal meditation chamber, your chapel, your synagogue. However you want to think about it or feel about it, imagine that this is the center of your energy that is pure. It hasn't yet incarnated. This is a place where you can enter and relax into this feeling of sweet and clear air. In your seventh chakra, imagine that the air is 67 degrees, absolutely pure. That the vista around you is so clear that you can literally see and feel for miles. I want you to imagine that your seventh chakra is a completely tranquil environment, and that only you can enter your seventh chakra. No one else can access that beautiful energy center where you meet God, where you meet the divine. This is that place. And when you are in your energy field of the seventh chakra, and you receive a delivery of inspiration, I want you to imagine yourself sitting on a Japanese mat in a beautifully empty, perfectly still room. And in front of you is this ebony table. And in walks a being who places on this table a script. And the being says, we want you to do this. And if you accept this, we would like you to be the guardian of this thought, this intention, this task, as it flows into the life force of humanity. When you make an agreement to do this, that agreement is a two-way street. In this agreement, I would ask you to assume the following, and that's that the guardian of the task, the guardian of the project, the guardian of the relationship, the guardian of birth, will be your overseer during this time. When that energy of inspiration begins its role into conscious incarnation, when your spirit accepts it, your spirit begins to birth it into your conscious mind, to take it from your seventh chakra and move it into your conscious being. This is what it feels like when a vision or your creative energy flows from your 7th chakra and begins its descent into your 6th. At this point, you will feel that inspiration in a more literal sense. It will shape into an actual idea. It will shape into a thought form that starts to build up momentum like a rock rolling down a hill and becoming a boulder. You'll start to feel this idea, and it will take shape, and you'll feel it beginning to inspire you in one way or inspire you toward this action or that. Now, what we need to talk about at this point are your own inner assumptions that you have to clip out of your psyche. One is that you're not creative. You cannot help but be creative. Let's just start with that perception. Work from that perception that life is a creative process. I am therefore a creative being. At first, that thought form may not suit you. In fact, it may even feel foolish. But it is nonetheless true, and it's one of those thought forms that I would say to you, say it even if you don't believe it. Just put the template into your psyche. Just start there. Just give energy a route and permission to flow into you. Don't block it before you feel it. Sometimes, in fact very often, in the process of descent, when energy enters into your 6th chakra, you might experience this sense of having a superb idea, yet it's ungrounded. You can't feel, I'm not sure what to do with it, or I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to make this happen. You are in between worlds at this point. You are half in the etheric, in the unconscious, and you are half in the conscious. You know you've been alerted. You know there's a potential that's coming through you, but you can't yet articulate it. If someone said, well, what do you want to do? You would say, I don't know, but I mean, it's something. I'm looking for my direction. I'm not quite sure. And you would say, look, why don't you just get started? And you say, well, I get started with what? Only I know I need to get started, but I'm not sure where to get started or with who, but I should get started. You start this process that feels like you're chasing your tail. You know you need to do something, but you don't know where, you don't know how and with whom, and you're half in the fog. And if someone says, well, why don't you just stay where you are? That to you feels like the kiss of death. If they said, well, why don't you just get going? You would say, I don't know where to go. Here is where I want to alert you. When you feel this way, I want you to make note of something. This is a feeling that potentially is creative blockage. The other option is that you are feeling an alert and a signal that tells you you are going to be given instructions. We are alerting you to that your life is soon going to change. And the feeling you have is the feeling of us telling you, but the time is not right. Both are possible options. One is that you're blocking it because you're frightened and will investigate those fears, or the time isn't right and the gods have simply said to you, be on alert. We're going to send you an assignment. It's for you and your own inner process to be able to discern which voice is talking to you. If you're filled with fear about creating, if you see yourself as a non-creative being, and creativity only means being an artist, and creativity only means writing music, you'll never be able to identify what I'm talking about, because already you've decided, I'm not an artist, therefore I'm not creative. So it would be very difficult for you to feel creative energy flowing in you when you've already decided it doesn't. This is why I need you to remind yourself again and again, be open, be open, be open. Now, that creative energy is now going to make its descent into your 5th chakra. Prior to that happening, just prior to it, you will archetypally, spiritually be asked a question. Even if you don't realize that's what's happening, this is what the question feels like. Some part of you will say, I can see myself doing that. You'll use sixth chakra language. You'll use your eyes. You'll say, I can see myself doing that. I can think about it. Let me think about it. You'll start talking in sixth chakra language. You won't even realize it. Now you will. But when you find yourself saying, let me think about it, that idea is in your sixth chakra, just so you know where it is now. And at that point, if you started to say to yourself, you know, I could pull this off. This makes sense to me. Another sixth chakra word. This makes sense. Yeah, okay, I can do that. This is a ritual of commitment, just so you know that. This is where you are committing to that energy. What you are actually saying is, all right, I have what it takes to manage you. I'll take charge. I have what it takes to, now let's descend. Let's go into the fifth chakra, the center of choice. Let me finish that sentence. I have what it takes to make the right choices. I have what it takes to communicate. Fifth chakra, this is your communication area. Now, simultaneously with this process of descent, I'm now going to introduce the 4 archetypes, because it will be at this point that you will meet them. Somewhere between your 6th and your 5th chakra, right there on that road, your 4 archetypes, the child, the saboteur, the victim, and the prostitute, will show up holding their lunch pails, saying, we've been waiting for you. And the whole reason this happens is at this point you haven't actually yet encountered your fear of this idea. So long as an idea is in the high voltage energetic state, it's delicious, it's seductive, it feels good, it's like an internal massage. But as it works its way into physical life, there's a part of you that says, if I say yes to this, I got to get serious about it. And it's at that point that these 4 archetypes show up for the sake of showing you how afraid you really are, or what you are going to confront, what you need to confront, but from a deeper point of view. What they are showing you in this ritual that occurs between your 6th and your 5th chakra is the spiritual role this task serves in your evolution as a spiritual being. What seduces you into accepting an idea, or what motivates you, if you prefer that question, is that you'll see what it can do for others, or you'll measure it against how it can change your own physical life. That will be your first form of evaluation. When you look at a new idea, your first response is not to sit down with that idea and say, how will this excavate my inner spiritual process and help me on my spiritual path to face the shadows within me and know all my fears? You don't do that. You wouldn't even consider doing that. What you do is you take an idea and you look over your physical world and you think, does it fit in my physical life? Will it help me in my physical life? How much will it cost me in my physical life? You aren't thinking of the deeper spiritual process. If I took you on the side and said to you, what do you think the purpose of life is? You would give me a spiritual reason. You would say, well, life is an experience in which I move my spirit ever more toward the goal of enlightenment. Yeah, that sounds good. But as soon as you go back into the day-to-dayness of your life, that goal evaporates to the back shelf of your library, and you forget. Or the goal becomes impractical or unrealistic. But it's not a part of your everyday thinking anymore. Which is why on this bridge between your 6th and your 5th chakra, you will meet these 4 archetypes. From the 6th chakra, as I said, an idea descends into your 5th. And you say, yes, I can make the choices necessary, I can manage this. The commitment to communicate, the commitment to make choice. Once that happens, you are now beginning to engage the laws of co-creation at a strength and in a stamina that thought alone cannot do. Now the law of magnetic attraction, the law of cause and effect, the law of like attracting like, starts to get animated in a stronger and stronger way because you've given permission via your 5th chakra to direct your energy into this project. It is not unlike, as the book of Genesis might read, you've taken your breath and you have breathed your energy into a thought form and you've animated it with your life force. Now that thought form descends to the next level, which is your heart. Now here, when that thought, when that idea, when that creative inspiration reaches your heart, this is a stopping point. This is your major impasse. This is a place where you have to get the cooperation of your heart, or what you are creating will be very short-lived. Your heart is the creative leader of everything you bring forth into the world through your system. If your heart energy is not involved, you certainly can continue to participate in a process of manifestation, but what you manifest will be very short-lived, and it will not bring you any satisfaction. Now you're going to talk to your heart, and you're going to say, how do I feel about this? Does this feel right to me? These are heart questions. You are in the center. You are having a dialogue with the heart of your spirit. If your heart tells you, this doesn't feel good, then you would be wise to stay right there and pull out of that idea and say, I can't pursue this. This isn't right for me. This idea should not come through my energy system. If your heart says this is right, this is you, do it, then you should direct your energy into that idea. What happens if your heart says this is yours, do it, and you don't direct that energy in? What happens then? You will have to look at your child and say, you know what? I need to do this because I have such a fear of standing up on my own. And when that child in you finds that the 7, 8, 1, 2, 3 adults that you run to, and you say, do you think I should do this? Do you think I can do it? And you find that they say, what are you doing that? Are you sure you want to do? Do you know how much time it's going to take? Do you have the enterprise for that? Come on. You don't know anything about business. From now on, what I want you to do, just for a moment, is step out of that experience, step out of that exchange. Don't lose power there. And get into a dialogue with your archetype. And just for a moment, a second, say, do I need that person's approval? I mean, have I been living my life needing that person's approval? And if you realize, I've always needed that person's permission, now connect a dot. For every piece of inspiration heaven gives you, it serves multiple levels, one of which is the maturation of your own spirit. You are given inspirations that will motivate you, that will bring you into face-to-face with relationships and dynamics in your life that do not serve you. And one dynamic that does not and will never serve you is your need to have someone approve first, prior to you being able to direct your spirit. Now, I want to add something here, and that's the child archetype, by definition, is part of a family. And when you look for approval, what you are actually asking is it okay for me to grow up now? In many cases, a tribe, a group, will not benefit from you growing up. It doesn't serve them. Your maturation doesn't serve them, because what that means is the more mature you become, the less authority they have over you. And sometimes it's very difficult for people to give up a controlling voice that they have in your psyche. And as a consequence, they are very frightened to give you approval. So whether or not what you were doing is magnificent or it's not magnificent, sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's simply difficult for anyone to approve, because approval is power. And it's too difficult to empower you at that level, sometimes for other people, which is why the process of empowerment has the word M to it. The prefix M, E-M, means self. You're the one responsible for your own empowerment, and empowerment comes from creation. Returning now to your chakras, you're in your fourth chakra, your heart. The big question, can you follow your heart? Now I want to tell you at this point, so that you just know, standing in your heart, I want you to turn your head in a visualization upward, so that you're looking from your fourth into and through your fifth, into and through your sixth, and into and through your seventh. If you look through all of these, they have one thing in common: they're all energy. Energy doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to change your life yet while you're living in the energy fields of these four chakras. Ideas are cheap. You can do all kinds of maneuvering in your energetic field. You are maneuvering your sanity and your emotional well-being. And you're maneuvering the management of your mind. You are maneuvering all of these energies within yourself. But from the other point of view, the actual hardcore dynamic of physical survival, these ideas have yet to influence your physical life. They're influencing your emotional life, your psychological life, your spiritual life, but they haven't tampered yet with your physical life. And now they're about to. Here comes the maker-breaker in creation. If your heart says, yeah, I want to do this, the ideas, your inspiration, your creativity now descends into your third chakra. At this point, the idea has become a large enough magnetic field to draw to you companions, other people who can help you, other forces that you need in the physical world to actually bring this idea into physical manifestation. However, this is also the energy center. This is also the stage in creation at which you meet your saboteur archetype. Why? Because at this stage, you are in the center of your self-esteem. You're in the center of how you feel about yourself, and whether or not you really feel like you can stand up, be respected, not be laughed at, endure criticism, all of the natural questions that you will automatically ask yourself when you are in the process of creating a different stage in your life. And you will ask yourself these questions. Will people think I'm foolish? What if I fail? What if my husband laughs at me? What if my wife just doesn't think that this is okay? You'll go through this. You will go through the I questions. This is your third chakra saboteur having a conversation. And at this point, the saboteur says, I don't know, you're going to sabotage yourself again? You're going to do it again? Are you going to give in again to your fear of being laughed at? Are you going to give in again because you don't believe in yourself, or you don't feel like you have the guts, note the guts, third chakra, to pull this off? Can't you just try it? It's at this point that you're really going to encounter what you define as success. And that's a very important discussion. What is success? If heaven or the gods inspire you to do something, how do you know what the outcome is supposed to be? You don't. When you start creating what you think a successful outcome is, I am telling you now, you are using your creative energy to create a torture chamber for yourself. You do not know what an idea is meant to do. All you know is it's meant to come through you. Here in your third chakra, you will deal with your ego and its alignment to an idea. And listen, whether or not you are just dealing with, I want to do a makeover, still your ego will say, you will look ridiculous in that. Or you might want to do something like start a business, or you might decide, I want to redo my home, or you want to decide, I want to be a positive person. I need to create a different interior in me, never mind my exterior. I want to do a serious remodeling of my inside. And somebody says, are you crazy? How can you possibly consider reading that spiritual stuff? Are you doing that? Are you changing your diet? This is internal remodeling. What if you didn't have the guts to say, yeah, actually, I am spiritually remodeling myself, and come to think of it, I think I'll remodel my nutritional program, and while I'm at it, I think I might remodel my wardrobe, and in the meantime, I think I'll remodel my friendships, and you, no more. In the process of creatively remodeling your life, you have to understand that creativity and the process of creativity might well reshape your social life, your partnerships, and it might bring in new people. It always does both. It brings in a whole new atmosphere of people, wonderful new people. It opens the door to all kinds of new energies because you're creating a different magnetic field around you. Even if you are creating a new internal library in yourself by saying, you know what, I'm going to go read Emily Dickinson. You have no idea that even that act of picking up a poem by Emily Dickinson changes your internal magnetic chemistry. Do you think truly that it's a coincidence that as soon as you start reading Dickinson or any other wonderful poet or author, you happen to run into someone who also likes that? Don't you understand that's the law of magnetic attraction working through one poem in your psyche that has entered into the magnetic field of the psyche of Emily Dickinson and connected you to other people who have her anchor in their psyche? So is it coincidence that you suddenly start walking into people who share Emily Dickinson or who share a real commitment to learning naturopathic medicine? No, it isn't. This is the gods providing you with a creative tribe. Let's continue our descent now into our second and first chakras. The gods are providing you with a creative manifestation of the earth, the world, your community and friends that will nurture this part of creativity coming through you. They are providing you, to use another word, with an atmosphere, with a tribe, with people. As your idea and your creation move out of your third chakra and into your second, this is a rough zone now. Your second chakra is rugged territory. And the reason is, here you meet your prostitute. And this is where some tough questions are going to be presented. This is where a strong part of your shadow that you perhaps have never seen, would have denied was there, is going to surface. For example, under normal circumstances, if I asked people, do you think you're greedy? Most people would say absolutely not. Do you think you're selfish? No. What about competitive? Would you drive someone into the wall to get to the goal line first? Oh, no. Wait. Next thing you know, What if your idea required financing? What if you had to have investors? As soon as you pull money and creativity and you merge the two, what you do is you create a monetary ego, which is very different than an idea ego. As soon as you create a monetary ego, energetic fears roll up in you that do a couple of things. One, if you're the one who stands to lose most of the money, that puts you in a different position with your creativity. Now, to some extent you could say, well, you see, that's what gives me the right to become so energetically controlling, does it? Let me give you something to think about. No matter what you're doing creatively, and no matter what energy you're using, the reality is you could view economics as just an energy. And as such, just because it's an energy, you shouldn't give it any more authority in a process than you would pens or pencils, which are just as essential to creating some things. Carol, that's unrealistic. Oh, really? If you believe that you co-create your reality, part of co-creation is the act of assigning value. You can assign value in any way you want to anything. If you look at your life, walk into your life, and recognize everything in your life is something you've assigned value to. This couch is valuable to me. This isn't valuable to me. This has value. That doesn't. Let me take this one step further. In the assignment of value, what you are actually doing is you are directing a part of your spirit into that action or into that physical matter, and you are saying to your spirit, go reside in the fabric of that couch and protect it and make sure people know it's mine. Which is why if someone walks in the room, for them that's just a couch, it's a piece of furniture. For you, it's a spiritual piece of your life. It's practically an altar. They sit on the couch, they put their feet up. They're not putting feet up on their couch, they're putting their feet up on your spirit. Get your feet off my spirit. All they did was put their feet on your couch. They think, what's the matter with you? My shoes are clean. You think you are walking on my spirit. At an unconscious level, that's exactly what's going on. That person gets up and says nothing's wrong and leaves the house. Only you interpret that act as a violation, and you'll use that word violation. Can you imagine how rude? They just violated my energy. And I've been with people, and I'm listening to them carry on over this couch type of incident. And I'm thinking, what is the matter with you? You are losing all of your spirit, all this wonderful creative energy you are investing in resenting somebody. It's phenomenal to me. And where I've seen it happen so often is the moment finances are introduced into the process of creation. Now, when you finally get through this discussion, this inner work with yourself financially, and in terms of how controlling your dynamics would become inside of you, then the idea finally lands on the physical plane. When it gets to the physical world, this is where your idea has to be intermingled with your society, with your social energy, with people around you, with the politics and the law of the land. This is when an idea becomes larger than you. And you have to start sharing the energy of that idea. This is in and of itself a tremendous challenge, because when you start sharing the energy and potency of one of your ideas, now you're going to know what it's like to have your ego run rampant in the world around you. Now you're going to know if you have to scream, but that's mine, mine, mine. Now you're going to know what it feels like. And this is what I would ask you to remember. This is what it feels like to chase the splinters of your spirit in the physical world. When you can imagine, I want you to imagine that you're working with people, and you bring forth this idea Finally, it's on the earth. Finally, it's up and running. And the next thing you know, somebody that's been working with you takes that idea and does their own version of it, or takes credit for it. And you find a part of yourself just raging inside. And you find you can't let go of that person. You're so angry. Your creative energy was taken by that person. From now on, symbolically, I want you to recognize that's what it feels like to have your spirit out of your body. Never mind who, never mind what. I just want you to associate the sensation that when you have these feelings that someone has violated you in terms of the creation of your self-image, the creation of your ideas, criticized you on the path of becoming the wholeness of who you could be, from now on, I want you to understand that when you think of these people and you get this sensation of a turning stomach or a hot energy in you or some kind of anger just running through you, from now on, I want you to connect the dot that that's what it feels like to identify a part of your spirit out of your body. Okay? Now, let's go on the ascent now. Once you've been moving around in the physical world of creation, think of it like this. Imagine that I said to you, here's 100 units of energetic currency. I want you to go down on the earth. I want you to invest that money. And then I want you to come back and bring the dividends, and then we'll deal with the dividends. So you've gone down, you've taken your energetic currency, your spirit, you've invested it into matter. Now here, remember that on the way down, I was encouraging you, directing you to continually evaluate, what are my motives? Why do I want to do this? What's the quality of my consciousness that's going into this? And with each descent, with each level, I asked you, refer to your ego now. Refer to how you become when money's involved. Refer to your shadow. Keep your eye on your shadow. When it's in the physical world, you're going to start absorbing the cause and effect of what you've created. What our goal is now as we begin the ascent up the ladder, the first thing we're going to check on is, have you invested any of your energy, your creative energy, in ways that are harming you? Have you made any unwise investments? And number two is, how do you enjoy the wise investments? Unwise investments are found in your first, second, and third chakras. Let's go. In your first chakra, again, we're dealing with the whole of the tribe, the earth, the society where you are living. It's your literal physical life. The way you want to evaluate this, evaluate your relationship to your creativity in this world. First question, do you feel in any way violated by what's become of what you have created? Is there anything in your physical world that has hurt you, or you feel shouldn't have happened, or you feel you were misrepresented? Do you feel that who you became or your creative energy was not appreciated? Do you have any scar tissue as a consequence of your creativity and the form in which it manifested? Now, you realize that I am also asking you to evaluate yourself if your creative energy has gone into a remodeling of your interior. When you finally show up on your home front, and let's say you've decided to, well, as many people that I know who have changed spiritual traditions. They left home a Christian, they returned a Buddhist. And they have the garb of a Buddhist. And they explode into the house with beads around their wrists and a gown on, and they announce to their tribe through their wardrobe that I'm no longer like you. Now, sometimes that shift in spiritual wardrobe is not appreciated. And many times these people would say to me that they have a great deal of scar tissue because their family cannot accept who they felt they needed to become. This is the type of scar tissue I'm asking you to find. I can say to you, well, have you healed this? The point here is I'm asking you to identify any part of yourself that is outside of yourself that you feel has been injured or unappreciated, that you have to go and collect, because we're going to go collect these pieces now. Now I want you to move up into your second chakra. And here is where you need to look one-on-one into the face of the people you feel have caused you the stress in this energy of creation. People that you feel have directly harmed you in some way. People you feel you've had direct confrontations with. Let's reverse it. And the people you've harmed. The people that you have unjustly dealt with, perhaps, or very critically dealt with through this process of creation. So here again, I'm going to ask you, review your world and anything or anybody individually associated with that particular creative flow that you feel you have unfinished business with. Now we're going to ascend into our third chakra. And in the third chakra, this is your center of self. What you want to evaluate there is the balance, the health, the well-being of your self-esteem. How do you feel through this creative project? What has it done for your self-esteem? Always creativity should influence self-esteem, should enhance your self-esteem. If you feel in some way that it has caused you to feel less about yourself, to feel scar tissue, if you feel at this point your victim has won, if you feel you shouldn't have pursued your creativity, if you find yourself making those shadow promises to yourself, I'll never do this again, I'll never try it again. This is the chakra where you make that kind of nonsense shadow commitment promise to yourself. Here, I'm asking you to take a look at how you dialogue with yourself when an outcome you expected did not happen the way you wanted it to. This is the center where you meet your need to have things work out the way you want them to. Your third chakra is your center of expectations. This is why on your descent, you should leave your expectations right there, right in your third chakra. And on your ascent, you're going to meet your disappointments. And it's going to be right in that area. And if you can leave your expectations, you won't have disappointments. If you incarnate with expectations, by the time you return to your third chakra, it can often be very painful. Now you move on up to your fourth chakra. Here in your heart, two things happen. One is you can open your heart and embrace all of the wonderfulness of what you've created, of feeling good about yourself, of loving your new look, of loving the new freedom you've given yourself, of loving all of that part of yourself. And if you have any emotional heartaches, it's at this point that I would say pull in your archetypes. Imagine that you are dialoguing with all four of them here. And think, why do I feel badly? Is it the child in me? Did someone reject me? Is it the prostitute? Did I negotiate myself somehow? Is it the victim? Am I feeling someone didn't appreciate me as much as they should have? Was I trying to impress someone and it didn't work? Here in your heart is where you take a look at these questions. At the same time, you look and think, you have every right to appreciate wonderful things that may have come from your creative ideas. If you find people are just so much better because you followed through with something. You have every right to allow that energy to flow in you and become spiritually absolutely saturated in that energy of having contributed to the benefit and the beauty of the lives of others, including yourself. This is what it means to love yourself enough to follow your own creativity. And when you do, when that energy gets back, you are going to feel so good about yourself. You're going to want to take yourself out on a date. That's how good you'll feel. You'll fall in love with yourself. Then it ascends to your fifth chakra, and here is where the real energetic creative payoff happens. Because when it gets back to the fifth chakra, this is your center of courage. Here. And right here in your fifth chakra, you know what happens? You suddenly realize there isn't a choice big enough that you wouldn't make. That the gods could inspire you to do this or do that, go up, go down. And you realize every time you make your ascension, and you've actually managed to create something to bring your spirit into physical form, and then to start making the ascent where you work out your shadow, you absorb your light with each chakra. When you get to your fifth chakra, you are going to feel like you are capable of following through on an inspiration, on an idea. It's 100 times bigger than the one you just went through. You'll have a sense of the fact that, yeah, I can make choices in life. I can take care of myself. I can handle myself. If I can earn 20 cents an hour, I can earn 20 bucks an hour. I can handle myself. From there, your energy ascends into your sixth chakra. You know what's exquisite then? What is so phenomenal is that you find you start having ideas you never thought you could have before. Inspirations. You fall into this category. I don't know where this came from. I suddenly had this idea to do this. All of a sudden, you are out of the range of rational ideas, and you've entered into the territory of inspirational ideas. Inspirational ideas have no bearing. They don't care about your education. They could care less where you live, and they don't care who you are. They care about whether your energy can manage them. Rational ideas are the ones that are honed and chipped according to who you are, where you went to school, what your talents are, how tall you are, how short you are. Those are rational ideas. When you're talking spiritual intuition and spiritual inspiration and that high voltage material, it has absolutely no bearing on your history. And the most delicious part, and here is its signature. Let's ascend into our seventh. You know that an idea comes from divine inspiration, and here's your signal. It doesn't make sense. It will not make sense to your rational mind. And it's not supposed to, and here is the delicious reason why. The gods, or God, if you prefer, always gives you an inspiration that doesn't make any sense to your ego, to your personality, or to your history. And it's exactly those ideas that baffle the shadow archetypes in you the most. When you're given an inspiration to do something like you've never done before, your victim archetype will come running up to meet you on the road to creation, because it has to. That's the way creation's structured. And your victim will say, I don't know how this can victimize you. Just give me a while. I'll think of some way. That's my job. I've got to think about how this is going to victimize you. And what the victim will do is it'll run through your history, but it can't find any historical reference point. You've never wanted to do this before. It can't find any scar tissue. And then here comes the saboteur. And the saboteur says, I'm going to go find some expectations so you'll be disappointed. It doesn't want to sabotage you. It just wants to use the expectations you've always used in your history to disappoint yourself. But because you've never done this, and you have no idea of what it could do, is it going to go left, right, up, down, your tendency to create huge expectations is not going to be as overwhelming as if you had done it before and you had expectations of something that are more familiar to you. When you get to a point and you know how to work with the process of creation enough, and you can tell yourself, it's not my job to decide right or wrong. I must not be attached to the outcome. I should never make a judgment. I should have no expectations. And I should remind myself at all times that I'm serving the process of creation, and that the greatest gift I can give to the process is to manage it consciously, but not claim that it's yours. Stay detached, stay clear, create with integrity. Watch your shadow. Always watch your shadow. And as creation happens, I'm telling you, every single time you feel an energetic shift, hold still and ask yourself, where is that shift happening? What chakra? Am I encountering an unconscious dialogue with one of those 4 archetypes? Stop, assess, listen, dialogue, choose, move on.